What's a femicide? Why does it happen? And in 2023, how many were the victims? Who were they? These are some questions we will answer in this podcast. We are Ellen and Caterina, and today we are talking about the femicide. But first, what's a femicide? According to the dictionary, a femicide is the killing of a woman or a girl, in particular by a man or and an account of her gender. According to the World Health Organization, femicide is the leading cause of death among women aged 16 to 44. When did femicide happen? Still today? Unfortunately, yes. Although less than in the past, some men still want to dominate over women and force her to follow their orders, but all women have the right to live free.
And in Italy, about 150 women are killed every year. In 2023, there were 109 victims. I and Elena analyzed all the stories of these women and we found some facts that change from year to year. This year, 30% of the assassins used a knife to kill their woman and 25% used a firearm. There is also a high percentage of people who strangled the victim. Why were these the most used methods to kill? The murderers are common people. They use knives because they have them at home. Furthermore, today, people can own pistols for sporting use or rifles for hunting. When the killer didn't have an object, he used his hands, and he strangled the woman. Instead, few people beat to death those they wanted to kill, because it is more difficult for a person to die in this way.
The assassin most of the time was the husband or the ex-partner of the victim. We also noticed that minors or young women from 18 to 30 years were often killed by a boyfriend or an ex-boyfriend, women over 30 years by an husband or an ex-husband, and old women over 60 years by a son. This is pretty obvious. Almost always, a young girl isn't married yet when she's 20, and a lady of 50 years old, if she wants to get married, she already is.
The victim, most of the time, was between 50 and 17 years old, probably because in this age a woman lives with her husband or partner for a long time, and after all the years they spent together, he is tired of her, or he had time to plan her death. This is very sad and drastic, but it happened. The youngest girl who died was Chiara Carta. She was only 13 years old when her mom killed her. The oldest one was Giuseppina Fiella, a Napolitan woman of 97 years old. Her cohabitant hit her in the head, killing her.
All the femicide happened in different cities, from Verona to Agrigento, and there isn't a zone in Italy where there were more victims than the other areas. Sadly, in the whole country, women died. We can say that in Rome, Naples, Milan, and Rimini there were many femicide, but the number of deaths is only a little higher than in other cities.
But does a murderer regret after killing his wife or girlfriend? Yes, in some cases. The 25% of the assassins felt so guilty that after committing femicide, they committed suicide, often with the same weapon they used to kill their victim. Some others went to turn themselves into the police. Some others escaped out of fear of the consequences or because they didn't want to be discovered, and they escaped without feeling guilty. In a few cases, the murderer was found dead, but it is not known whether he committed suicide.
Some women were killed together with their husband, their children, a friend, or a relative. In some cases, relatives were killed due to inheritance. In other cases, friends were killed because betrayal was suspect, or because that friend wanted to convince the victim to leave the murderer. Some killers have never been found. Some femicide remain a mystery. Maybe because no one was near the victim or because the murderer didn't leave traces of him on the crime scene.
But why were all these women killed? There are many reasons. A finished relationship, a quarrel, or because the woman rebelled against those who mistreated her. Only in one case, that of Antonella Lopardo, was the woman killed by mistake. The killer, in fact, wanted to shoot her husband, but as soon as Antonella opened the door to him, he killed her by mistake, and he escaped. In other cases, a friend of the son of Silvana Aru, an old woman of 71 years old, killed her. In his backpack there were some jewels of the lady, so it's probably that he wanted to rob her.
The femicide were often preceded by stalking and violence. Some women had the courage to go and confess that someone mistreated her, but many others didn't. In some other cases, the victim went to the police, but they said that the accusation was not certain, and it was not enough to arrest the man.
One time, the man was charged of violence thanks to his son. What happened? At the end of November 2023, the teacher of a child of 7 years old told his students to write an essay on their notebook. The child talked about his dad and he wrote, "I don't like when he hits mom." The teacher read that and suspected that the father of the kid had beaten his mother, and it was true. The man was guilty.
But why are these facts important? Why is it important to know which was the most used weapon, or if the assassin turned himself to the police or committed suicide? Why are we talking about it? We asked us this. Why? It's a word we often use when we talk in general about femicide. Why are there so many victims? Why does a man have to kill a woman only because she exists? Everyone has a different opinion.
We think that talking about it is important because the children have to grow up thinking about a woman not as an object but like a human. Because there could be a murder among us. You can sit near a future killer on the bus. You can smile at an assassin. We don't know what is it in the mind of a person, so we have to tell everyone that women don't have to die only because they are women.
So, why are the facts we told you important? In our opinion, to better understand the situation and what the murderer thinks. For example, we understand that many men that kill women aren't expert assassins. They kill just because they are angry or they grow up thinking women don't have to be respected. We think it's better to know facts like this.
But where can you learn about this? Beyond podcasts, there are many videos, books and films that talk about femicide. C'è ancora domani is a famous film by Paola Cortellesi. It is about Delia, a woman who is mistreated by her husband Ivano. She is the mother of 2 sons and 1 daughter. The daughter loves a boy and he loves her too, but he is overprotective and Delia notices this. The film isn't set in our days, but today the situation of some women is like the one of the protagonist.
There are also some women who survived from the attempted femicides. They visit the schools to talk about their stories. One of them is Valentina Pizzalis. What happened to her? Why is her face disfigured? Her ex-husband barred her. She was only 27 years old. She also wrote a book named Nessuno può toglierti il sorriso. Valentina is an example of a brave woman who is happy, even if something terrible happened to her.
Also, art can help. In San Lorenzo in Rome there is a mural which represents many women holding hands. This masterpiece is by Elisa Caracciolo. This mural was vandalized many times, but it is still there, and it reminds us of all the women in the world who aren't free.
In Milan there is a mural the cathedral in honor of Giulia Cecchettin, the girl who was killed by her ex before getting the degree. On the drawing on the red clothes of the girl, there is a phrase, "I just wanted to disappear in a hug."
A few days ago, on the tomb of Giulia, her uncle found a letter, 2 pages written in blue pen. A boy named Filippo wrote it. He wrote, "Hi Giulia, my name is Filippo and I don't know where to start. Maybe we'd apologize, even if now they're of little use. Maybe I need them to feel okay with myself after what happened to you. In the period when I started talking about your story on TV, I was still writing with my ex and I still liked her. In the next few days she started ignoring me, so since they talked about how obsessive Filippo Turetta had been with you, I decided to look at myself inside and reflect on my situation."
Returning to the meaning of this message, I felt particularly touched by this situation. Probably it's thanks to your relatives, even if talking about thanks to in this situation isn't the best thing. In these situations, it is very easy to come out with phrases like, "I'm not like this," or "we aren't all monsters." But I'm convinced that it all starts by the little things, so much little that sometimes we don't realize them. Hypocrisy and inconsistency echo in my words, as every sane mind realizes that these things are anything but small.
Someone says that your death was useful, but how can you consider a death useful when these tragic events happen every day from years and the situation doesn't seem to change? Anger and sorry that I personally feel towards these boys and men is so much. But am I so different? However, many times we don't see the little things. Another time, Giulia, I apologize for our umpteenth failure that, as it was demonstrated in the day after your pass, it was not the last. A hug from one of your peers and an almost neighbor of town, Filippo.
We read this letter on Facebook, on a post of Giulia's uncle. There are men who understood and rightly do an internal examination to be a real man, he wrote. Thanks, Filippo. This letter is of a boy of 20 years old, but its meaning is so deep. This boy had the courage to write his feeling and his stuff on paper and leave them on Giulia's tomb. This boy had the courage to say sorry.
Social media are an important fount of information. Probably many people read Filippo's letter thanks to Facebook. But it's important to know what's fake and what's true.
This reminds me of a poem by Alda Merini. I heard it during the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women this year, on 25th November. It's called Canto delle Donne. It gives me hopeness. It talks about the situation of women.
I remember another phrase Alda Merini wrote. We have been loved and hated, adored and denied, kissed and killed, just because we are women. It's true, women are killed just because they are what they are. Maybe in the future the life of women will improve. But for now, from Caterina and Elena, that's it.